Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Mental Maths Answers. I hope you had some fun doing these. There were some very interesting questions this week, so let's get into it. Right, section A straight away with a nice tricky one. We've got this number up here, 5004. How many hundreds and how many and 4 units? Now, this is a really cool one. Now, we did a bit of this with our decimals this week. In the number 5004, of course, in our hundreds column, there is a 0. There is a 0 in our hundreds column. But if I told you a number had 0 hundreds and 4 units, well, quite clearly, that number is 4. There's no hundreds and there are only 4 units. You haven't told me about the 10, so I can only assume that number is 4. So 0 hundreds can't be our answer. It cannot be our answer because we know our number is larger than 4. Now, of course, yes, there's a 0 in the hundreds column, but there is also a 5 in the thousands column. Now, this is where we look at our exchanging, what it means when there is a number slightly higher than this one. Of course, in our hundreds, if we are to get 10 hundreds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we can't put a 10 there. That doesn't work. So, of course, these all turn into 1,000. Turns into 1,000 over here. So 10 of these hundreds become a 1,000. If there are 5,000, there must be 5 lots of these 10s. So the answer is 50 hundreds. In this number, there are 50 hundreds. Hope that was nice and clear, especially after this week doing our decimals. Question 2 was £7.80. Question 3 was 67. Hopefully we did some rounding with this. I like to turn that 29 into 30 and then add it together. So we've got 29 and 38. My brain can't do that. My brain thinks, nope, 9 and then there's the 8 and then we're going across the 10s. So all I do is I add on 1 to make it 30 plus 38. And I know, well, that's nice and easy because I got a nice 0 here. So 38 plus 30, well, that's easy. That's 68. But currently our seesaw is too heavy on this side because we've got this plus 1. We need to do the opposite on the other side to make it even. The opposite of plus 1 is minus 1. Now our seesaw is nice and equal on our equal sign. We've done the opposite on each side. So of course 68 take away 1 is 67. Now, of course, I don't draw seesaws when I'm working these out. This is just showing you what goes on in my head when we're working out these answers. So the answer is 67. Then we have 6p, 14.5 centimetres. This is, of course, 14.5 centimetres. We need to times by 10 to get 145 millimetres. 10 minutes to 10 is 9:50. We need our AM because it says in the morning, so 9:50 AM. You must have your AM. 2 litres, 50 millilitres. £2.25. A nice fraction one here, good for this week. How many metres is 1/10 of a kilometre? And then 1/5 of a kilometre. So if we have our kilometre, I'm going to have to count those letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is our kilometre. Now we want the answer in metres. And we're chopping it into 10. If we want it in metres, let's turn a kilometre into metres, which is 1,000. And we're splitting it 1,000 into 10 equal parts. So that's more parts. It's splitting it up into more parts. And we worked out that that was 100. Now 1/5 is always going to be bigger. 1/5 is always going to be bigger because if we take our 1,000 again and we only split it into 5 parts, or even if we draw it the same, so here is our whole again because our whole is the same, instead of splitting it into 10 parts we split it into 5 parts. We can see that these parts are much bigger than these. In fact, they're double the size. So the answer is 200. So, even though our fraction, 1/5, 5 is a smaller number on the denominator, it means we're splitting it into into fewer chunks, which are going to be bigger. So the number will always be bigger. But that's for our fractions. Hopefully you found that not too tricky, given we're doing some fractions this week. So that's our lovely fraction one. So just to make it clear, 100 and 200. And oh, I seem to have forgotten this one. I was so excited by a fraction question. 49 divided by 7. Well, if I'm finding division difficult, then we can do the inverse. Well, I know 7 can times by something to get to 49. Well, I can work out, of course, it's 7 times 7 that equals 49. So we just have a little look. Those are our question A answers. Feel free to pause it if you want to just check through. Okay. B, subtract 20 from 708. Now again, we spoke about this lots in the past couple of weeks of heading to those whole numbers, those round numbers. So we need to take away 20 and we're on 708. Now again, this is all what we should be doing these things in our head. It's our mental maths. But just to show an illustration, what I like to do is get to those whole numbers. So my next whole number, if I'm going down, is going to be 700. To get to 700, I need to take away 8. So if I take away 8 from this side as well, I have 12 left to take over, and I have the number 700. 700, take away 12. Again, if I want to break it down even more, if I'm really finding things tricky that day, I'm going to slow it right down and think, okay, actually, the next whole number, if I'm taking away 12, the 10s are much easier. So I can take away 10 to get to 690. Take away 10 from this side. I'm left with taking away 2 now. I'm on 690. Take away 2 is 688. Take away 2 from this side, and I now know I've taken everything away. So use those milestones to help you. Really break it down. Partition that number. Really break it down if you're finding those tricky. So 688, and of course that's all done in our heads. Next question, 33. Then £3.10. The cost of 25 centimetres when we know how much a metre is. Oh, this is a fun one. So let's first of all, we've got metre, centimetres and pounds. 3 different measurements there. Let's knock it down to just having 2. So instead of £1.20 per metre, it is of course £1.20 per 100 centimetres. And we want to know how much 25 centimetres is. Well, let's look at the proportion. What is 25 centimetres to 100 centimetres? Well, I know if I times 25 by 4, I would get 100. So 4 lots of 25 make 100. That means if we split 100 into 4 equal parts, each part will be 25. Therefore 25 is 1/4 of 100. It's 1/4 of 100. So 25 is 1/4 of 100, so we need to find 1/4 of £1.20. 1/4 of £1.20. There's lots of different ways you can do this. You might want to count up, you might want to partition. I'm thinking 1/4, we've got the number 4 equal parts. £1.20, I can see this number here, 12. 12 and 4, I know I've got a relationship together. They are linked together, and again it's by our factor pairs. I know 4 times 3, 4 times 3 equals 12. 4 times 3 equals 12. Okay, so if 4 times 3 equals 12, I want £1.20 or 120 pence. Well, what can I times by 4 to get to there? I know 4 times 3 equals 12. That must mean then 4 times 30 equals 120. So if I divide 120 into 4 equal parts, they will be 30. So the answer is 30 pence. So look for those numbers that are linked together. It is 30 pence. This clock is fast, which means it's showing the time too fast. So it's going round too fast. So our time is actually behind. It hasn't got to this time yet. This clock is showing a time that hasn't got to yet. So we need to take 20 minutes away. 5, 10 and 13 minutes past 7. Again, going back to 7 o'clock, take away 13, and then another 7. We get 6:53 a.m. Morning. It says morning down here. We need your AM. If you don't have your AM, please put it in purple pen. £2.76 from the next one. Oh, and our fractions. Okay, let's look at our fractions. Now, we've been doing lots and lots this week about denominators being the same, about making our denominators the same, and that's really important. Now, you can notice here that all of our denominators are different, but we can still compare these fractions. And the reason we can still compare these fractions is because the numerators are the same. The numerators are all the same. We're just looking at 1 at our numerator. So 1 over 2, 1 over 7, 1 over 4, 1 over 10 and 1 over 3. So actually, even though we don't, our denominators are all different, we can actually compare these fractions. We can compare these fractions. Now we're looking for the one that is the smallest. What would give us the smallest amount? Well, you're getting 1 part of our shape being, or our amount being divided that into that much. So you can visualize it as a cake, as a pizza, as money, as chocolate, as anything. But if I had something, if I had some chocolate and I divided it into 2 parts, 7 parts, 4 parts, 10 parts, or 3 parts, and I only gave you 1 of them, well, we know the smallest of those would be our 10. Dividing something into 10 equal parts and getting 1 of them is much smaller than dividing it into 2, snap it in half and just giving you 1. So the smallest fraction here is 1/10. To get to our whole, we would have to add on 9/10. Oh, this one. This is a little bit like the one earlier. By multiplying, find the sum of 29, 29, 29 and 29. So we've got our repeated addition, or 4 times 29. Now, the way you might want to do this is by adding a 1 onto each one to make 30. 4 times 30 is 120. We've added 1s, so at the end we need to take them away. We need to take 4 1s off to get 116. Or you may want to partition 20 times 4 and then 9 times 4. Either way, something to help you work out that answer. 35 divided by 5 and then we times it by 3. We've got our 21, 3/5. We should be quite good at that now. And then 10 times 10 times 10. Well, 10 times 10 is 100. Times 10 again is 1,000. And those are our B answers. We've got our greater than sign. 4.87 is larger than 4.78, greater than. 50p, because that makes £2.50. How much more than £2 is 50p? The only one in here with an obtuse angle is y, and again if we turn it, we can see that this angle here is obtuse. It's more than our right angle, so it's y. This is a fun one. Our scales, we haven't really done scales for a while, but remember, to find out how much each of these jumps are, we need to look at what our scale is. It's going from 3,000 to 4,000 with 10 jumps in between. If I was to make 10 equal jumps, each one would have to be 100 to get to 4,000. So 3,001, 2, 3, 400. 3,400. The question asked, double the number, 6,800. Question 5, adding those together, the missing was 450. 1975 was when Toby's father was born. Again, breaking it down. So we need to take away 45. First thing I'm going to do is take away 20. So that will be 25 left. And you can either take away 25 from that, or again, take away another 20 if you wanted to. and then a 5. So if you're intimidated by something, think about the ways you can make it as simple as possible. Remember, all this happens in your head, so it's totally up to you how you want to do this. This was a fun one, and you may have noticed I've done some scribbling here just to show you that actually on these 2-step, 3-step even questions, absolutely you can jot some working out down. If you're finding it hard to keep things in your head, then put a little annotation down. You see how I've annotated. Each day Louise has 3 half litres of milk. 3 half litres of milk. So that's the first thing I got to figure out, is 3 half litres would be 1.5 litres. And every day except on Sunday. Every day except Sunday is 6 days, so I've times that by 6. On Sunday she has twice as much. So 1.5 litres times 2 would be 3 litres. All of this would be really tricky to keep in your head. So by all means, jot it down. As long as the answer is clear, doesn't matter what's going on up here. So I've realised that I need to do 1.5 times 6. Well, I know 6 times 1 is 6. And 6 times a half, or 0.5 times 6 is 3. That comes up to 9. Plus 3 is 12. Each of these is a centimetre. We're going up in 500 metres. By the end, it'll be 3.5 kilograms. 3.5 kilometres. 3,859. And 63 was the difference. The sum of 9 and 9 is of course 9 plus 9. The product is 9 times 9. We're looking from the difference between 81 and 18. The answer is 63. Now, I can never quite get these all in the camera, so those are the first few. Feel free to pause there if you want to just double check. And those last couple there. Great, I hope you enjoyed marking through with these. Please upload a marked version of yours. If you have any questions about any of these questions, then just drop it into the teams. But I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Bye.